Good morning. Welcome back to yet another section of Indian writing in English. I hope all of you understood the life and career and all the details, the personal life of R.K. Narayan. Because we went through R.K. Narayan's personal life, his notable works, his relationship with Graham Greene, his fictional town Malgudi. Then we also spoke about his writing style and language. So today we are going to start his famous work Mars in the Seventh House. In chapter 9 of his memoir My Days, R.K. Narayan recounts his marriage to Rajam in the face of a grave astrological hurdle, his struggle to make both ends meet, and the obstacles he encountered as a budding literateurer. He relates how, after having been rejected by every publisher, his first book, Swami and His Friends, was published by Hamish Hamilton of London, thanks to the good offices of Graham Greene, who remained his lifelong friend. The next two books, The Bachelor of Arts and The Dark Room, approved by Greene, were also published by Nelson and Macmillan, respectively, in the same way. These are the main incidents we are going to find in detail in this short story Mars in the Seventh House. Okay, so let us start. So all of you please take the page number 38. Mars in the Seventh House. Did you notice the title? Mars in the Seventh House. Actually, it is relating horoscope. So, horoscope, is it a main theme in this novel? Sorry, in this short story. Okay, let us go through it. Mars in the Seventh House, page number 38. Sighing over a pretty face and form seen on a balcony or from across the street or in a crowd, longing for love in a social condition in which, at least in those days, boys and girls were segregated and one never spoke to anyone but a sister. I had to pass through a phase of impossible love sickness. Perhaps the great quantity of fiction I read prepared my mind to fall in love with all and sundry, all one-sided of course. Any girl who lifted her eyes and seemed to notice me became at once my sweetheart, till someone else took her place. Thus I had become devoted to a girl in a green sari with a pale oval face passing down our street when we were living at Bojana Lines. So here he is speaking about his adolescent age. Actually, in that period, he wanted to become a lover. He was seeking for a good girl to start his love. Moreover that, he was very shy, but he has a lot of imagination. He had the habit to read so many books to become a good lover. Then here he is speaking about a girl. She is in a green sari with a pale oval face passing down their street. their street they are living at Bojana Lines. So he is searching for a sweetheart. There is no particular condition. When any girl looked at him, at the moment itself, he started to treat her as his sweetheart. Then you can understand that infatuation. She lived in the next street, the sister-in-law of an engineer, and I would have missed anything in the day rather than miss a glimpse of her. Sometimes I followed her quietly like a slave until she reached her gate and disappeared into her house without bestowing a single glance in my direction. I longed for some engineering business that might warrant a visit to her brother-in-law and then a gradual development of an acquaintance. The relationship maturing until I could freely propose to her. Ella Victoria Cross or Marie Corelli. Okay, actually it was given here in the page number 50. Victoria Cross. Actually it is early 10th century Australian Christian ornamental cross or covered with gold and precious stones. Then about Marie Corelli. Marie Corelli is a British novelist who shot into instantaneous fame with the publication of her first novel, which is her first novel, A Romance of Two Worlds, in 1886. Okay. So I told you, R.K. Narayan, he was interested to read a lot of books because he wanted to become a good lover. So that is why he is selecting such love stories. Then he met a girl in a green sari with a pale oval face. He started to follow her. He understood her brother is an engineer, and sometimes he feels the novel of Marie Corelli. It is her first famous novel, A Romance of Two Worlds. So he read a lot that novel. That is why he sometimes feels he is walking in that novel. I lost sight of this girl suddenly, but found another a little farther off, standing on the terrace of her home, drying her hair. I noticed her at first on my way to the college, and then looked for her constantly on the way to and from. Sure enough, she would be there, a squat, lumpy girl, but I loved her nonetheless. I think she was a flirt in her own way, ogling at every passerby, not necessarily only me. I lost interest in her soon and bestowed it on another girl going to Maharani's college. Anyway, he left the relationship with the girl in a green sari. Then he started the another relationship with a girl. He suddenly noticed the girl and he felt he is okay with that girl. Even he is a squat, lumpy girl. Then okay, after some days he understood she is a flirt because she is interested other boys also. When she understood this reality, he left her. Then he met another girl, the girl going to Maharani's college, who used to give me a smile and pass on. All this love for someone was necessarily one-sided and unspoken, but it made no difference. It gave me a feeling of enrichment and purpose Among an inner circle of friends, we always discussed girls and indulged in lewd jokes and enjoyed it all immensely. I tell you, in a short, we already discussed 3 girls. From that experiences, you also understood it is not a serious affair. Actually, he wanted to become a good lover. That is why he is attempting to start a sincere affair with a girl, but somehow all the affairs were broken, and he was very interested to speak about their experiences with his friends. The blind urge to love went to fantastic lengths. I even fell in love with a lady doctor who had come to attend my mother because she spoke a few words to me whenever I greeted her. She was a British lady, well past middle age, stout and married. But I saw great possibilities in her and read a significance in every glance. Love, especially one-sided, can know no bounds, physical, racial, of age or distance. My most impossible infatuation was for a pen friend I had in England. Then you know who is the third victim. Okay, third victim, it is none other, it is a doctor. The doctor of his mother. Then when the doctor who had come to attend his mother, he fell in with the doctor. Actually, she was a married woman, middle-aged, stout. All these are not important for him because he wanted to become a lover. That's all. So no barriers in front of him. He just started to love her. Then when he continued this affair with that doctor, not forget that it is a one-side love. Then he met another person. This time it was a pen friend. Okay. Then pen friend I had in England. We exchanged letters every week. She sent me her photograph and I sent her mine. I kept her photo in my breast pocket and hoped she did likewise with mine. 5,000 miles away. Even if I wished to reach her, it would mean a P&O voyage of 4 weeks. I wrote impassioned love letters which she rejected outright. She wrote back impersonal letters describing a holiday in Britain or her latest collection of stamps. Although she protested against the tone of my letters, she never stopped writing, and that seemed to me a hopeful sign. I continued to send her my unmitigated love in every letter and treasured her cold, impersonal replies and the scent of her stationery for years, until I was married, when I threw them over the wall. Okay, this is about her pen friend. After the doctor, he started to love that pen friend. Pen friend was from England. Actually, she was interested to speak about her collection of stamps, holiday in Britain, etc. Every week they wrote letters, but through the letters, Narayan revealed his love towards her, but she didn't speak any word about his love, but she continued the writing to him. I told you she spoke about collection of stamps and holiday in Britain. but he continued his writing to his pen friend. Then he kept all her letters until his marriage. So this short story begins with his infatuations. Then we already understood he is wandering to find out a suitable girl to start his affair. First, he fell in love with a girl in green sari. He followed her. He understood he is a sister of an engineer. That period, he has the habit to read the books of Marie Corelli. Actually, he was in the world of Marie Corelli. That is why he expected she should understand his love and she should reveal it according to the characters in Marie Corelli. But it didn't happen. Somehow he left here. Then he met another girl, a squat, lumpy girl. He started to watch her every day, but within days he also left that girl. Then again he fell in love with a doctor, a lady doctor. Actually, she was a married woman. She was middle-aged, stout and married. It doesn't matter to him. He started to love that doctor. After that, he started to love his own pen friend. She was from England. They wrote letters every week. He wrote about his love towards her, but that pen friend always wrote the letters about different topics. Example, collection of stamps, holidays in Brighton. She never stops to write a letter to him. She kept all these letters until his marriage. Okay, then we can move to the next page, 40. After the false starts, the real thing occurred. In July 1933, I had gone to Coimbatore, escorting my elder sister, and then stayed on in her house. There was no reason why I should ever hurry away from one place to another. I was a freelance writer and I could work wherever I might be at a particular time. One day I saw a girl drawing water from the street tap and immediately fell in love with her. Of course, I could not talk to her. I learned later that she had not even noticed me passing and repassing in front of her while she waited to fill the brass vessels. I craved to get a clear, fixed mental impression of her features, but I was handicapped by the time factor, as she would be available for staring at only until her vessels filled, when she would carry them off and not come out again until the next water filling time. I could not really stand and stare. Whatever impression I had of her would be through a side glance while passing the tap. I suffered from a continually melting vision. The only thing I was certain of by the social conditions in which I lived. The tall headmaster, her father, was a friend of the family and often dropped in for a chat with the elders at home while on his way to the school, which was at a corner of our street. The headmaster's daughter, and the restraint imposed by the social code created barriers. I attempted to overcome them by befriending the headmaster. He was a book lover and interested in literary matters, and we found many common subjects for talk. We got into the habit of meeting at his school after the school hours and discussing the world. Seated comfortably on a cool granite pile. Pile means veranda. In front of a little shrine of Ganesha in the school compound. One memorable evening, when the stars had come out, I interrupted some talk we were having on political matters to make a bold, blunt announcement of my affection for his daughter. Okay, anyway, I already told you in detail about his love affairs. It was not serious one. Actually, all these are infatuations. After all these incidents in his life, he went to Coimbatore in July 1933 with her sister, elder sister. Then he met a girl. There is no doubt, at the first sight itself, he fell in love with that girl. There is no talk between the narrator and the girl. Then that period he was working as a freelance writer. Of course, he spent a lot of time to watch this girl. Actually, the girl had the habit to take the water from the public pipe. So he sat near to that pipe and he started to watch her. But he was not at all ready to reveal his love towards her. Then the days passed. He understood he is the daughter of a headmaster in the nearest school. He had the habit to talk with his friends. So the narrator decided to make a good relationship with the daughter's father, the headmaster. He started to talk with the headmaster. Very soon they became friends. They started to speak about books, politics, like that. Then one day, one day he started to reveal his love towards his daughter. You think that? Can you imagine? Even he didn't reveal the love towards the lover. Instead, that he revealed his love at first to the father of his lover. He was taken aback but did not show it. In answer to my proposal, he just turned to the god in the shrine and shut his eyes in a prayer. No one in our social condition could dare to proceed in the manner I had done. There was formalities to be observed, and any talk of a marriage proposal could proceed only between the elders of families. When I had done was unheard of, but the headmaster was sporting enough not to shut me up immediately. Our families were known to each other, and the class, community, and caste requirements were all right. He just said, if God wills it, and left it at that. He also said, marriages are made in heaven, and who are we to say yes or no? After this, he explained the difficulties. His wife and women folk at home were to be consulted, and my parents had to approve, and so on and so forth. And then the matching of horoscopes. This last became a great hurdle at the end. Hurdle means difficult, an obstacle. Okay, anyway, so you already understood. The narrator revealed his love at first to his lover's father, the headmaster. When he revealed his love, the headmaster became shocked. but he didn't show any evidence. He prayed to God at the moment. Then he revealed that marriages are made in heaven. Who are we to say yes or no? So we don't have the right to say yes or no because marriages are made in heaven. If God wills it, if God allows the marriage, no problem. You can marry my daughter. After saying these words, he reveals that definitely I want to get the permission from my home. My wife and women folk at home were to be consulted. They should give the permission to arrange the marriage. He also got the permission from his own parents. But what was the main problem? The horoscope was main problem. He came down to a patriarchal level one day by asking me what I proposed to do for a living. Luckily for me, at about that time, a small piece that I had written, how to write an Indian novel, lampooning Western writers who visited India to gather material, had unexpectedly been accepted my punch and brought at me 6 guineas. This was my first prestige publication, and it gave me a talking point with my future father-in-law. I could draw a picture of my freelance writing for London papers and magazines and explain to him that when my novel was finished it would bring in income all my life and 50 years after. He listened to me with apparent interest without contradicting me, but unsuggested. I'm sure if your father used his influence, he could fix you in a government job at Bangalore. Won't he try? This always upset me, and I immediately explained my economic philosophy. How I spurned the idea of earning more than was needed, which would be 20 rupees a month, or with a wife 40 rupees, and I expected my wife to share my philosophy. Not a very politic statement to make to the bewildered and hesitant father of a girl, but I became headstrong in my conviction. However, while it distressed the gentleman, it did not materially affect my progress toward matrimony. Anyway, he revealed his love towards his father-in-law, future father-in-law. He was a gentleman. That's why he replied to him, marriages are made in heaven, and who are we to say yes or no? After that, he revealed that definitely I should get the permission from my wife and women folk at home. He also got the permission from his parents. Then one day, the headmaster asked him about his job. Fortunately, he got 6 guineas from the Western writers for his work, How to Write an Indian Novel. So at that moment he was very confident to speak about his job. Actually he was a freelance writer. I think all of you remembered well. Then he started to write novels, but it didn't publish. But even he was very confident about his earnings. So he revealed that I got enough money to live with a wife. he didn't interrupt him while the narrator was speaking about his job. But after that, he asked him, if your father tried, you would get any government job in Bangalore. Why your father don't try that? From that we can identify the headmaster thinks if he is a government employee, definitely as a father he would not think about the future of his daughter. He will be in a safe zone. Okay, that's why he made such a suggestion. Okay, anyway, but the narrator proved his financial status and he declared that with 40 rupees wife and he will live very comfortably. What really mattered was not my economic outlook but my stars. My father-in-law himself an adept at the study of horoscope had consultations with one or two other experts and came to the conclusion that my horoscope and the girls were incompatible. My horoscope had the 7th house occupied by Mars. The 7th house being the one that indicated matrimonial aspects. The astrological texts plainly stated that Mars in the 7th house indicated nothing but a disaster unless the partner's horoscope also contained the same flow, a case in which two wrongs make one right. Okay, anyway, when he revealed about his financial status, about his income, father-in-law was convinced. There was no problem raised against his job and income. But here the real villains are stars in the horoscope. According to their caste, horoscope is very important. Based on caste, community and horoscope, they are arranging the marriages. So horoscope is very important. What was the problem in their horoscope? About the narrator, the 7th house occupied by Mars. That is the problem. When the 7th house occupied by Mars, it is relating their marriage. So he will get the partner with the same stars in Mars. Then only it will be right. That means the two wrongs make one right. Otherwise, it will make problems in their marriage life. The next few weeks were trying period for me. The headmaster would have none of me. In very gentle terms, he expressed his rejection of me, also his resignation to such a fate, since he seemed to have been secretly in my favor. I forgot to say one point. Actually, his future father-in-law, he knew the horoscope well. So he examines the horoscope and identified that the 7th house occupied by Mars. After that, the headmaster consulted this horoscope with a lot of astrologers. They also suggested the same problem. It means the girl's horoscope should have the same stars. Then only it is possible. But you know, whatever the problems in that horoscope, actually the headmaster has a favor towards the narrator. Okay, page number 42. I lost the taste for food and company and lay sulking in a corner of my sister's house on gloomy easy chair. My mood was noticed by others. Okay. My mood was noticed by others with sympathy. I think I enjoyed a certain amount of self-dramatization and did all that one thus when crossed in hopeless love. I avoided going out in the direction of the street tap. I avoided the headmaster and his school. Late in the evening, when it became dark, I went out for a brisk walk with my head bowed in thought, looking neither left nor right, but totally wrapped up in my own gloomy reflections. Just enough initiative left to smoke 2 gold flake cigarettes and return home. My sister, being my hostess, tried to cheer me up in various ways. My pensive pose got on her nerves. As the spirit, I remember writing a play. It kept me busy all the afternoon. The play was called The Home of Thunder. Mark it. The Home of Thunder. A frightful tragedy in which all the principal characters are struck dead by lightning on a tower open to the skies, the play ending with a clap of thunder. That is why he gave the title The Home of Thunder. It was a highly philosophical play examining the ideas of love, resignation and death, the writing of which diverted my mind and a great deal. I had great hopes for its future and in due course sent it round to all kinds of producers and directors in every part of the civilized world. I had forgotten all about its existence till a few months ago. Again, when David Higham's office discovered and returned the manuscript while clearing out old papers. Okay, so we can see that when the headmaster revealed that horoscope is the main villain for their marriage. The marriage with the narrator and the headmaster's daughter. We can see that he became sad. He became gloomy. He was not at all interested to do anything. He stopped to sit near the public pipe. He didn't go to the school and he didn't talk with the headmaster. He didn't talk to anyone. Then he started to smoke 2 gold flake cigarettes. At that moment, his sister tried maximum to make him cheer up. But he didn't come back to his happiness. Then he decided to write a play. Have you remembered the name of that play? Yes, The Home of Thunder. Actually, it is the apt title for his current situation, The Home of Thunder. In that, it is a frightful tragedy. In that, he added the death by lightning on a tower open to the skies. Even the play ends with a clap of thunder. In that philosophical play, he is examining the ideas of love, resignation and death because it is very suitable for his current situation. Like that, he completed that play, The Home of Thunder. Okay. Page number 42, second paragraph. The evil of my stars soon became a matter of discussion among the headmaster's astrological group. He sought me out and sent me here and there to meet his colleagues and talk it over with them and bring him their opinions and conclusions. Finally, he sent me along to meet an old man living not far from us in the back of a coconut garden. His name was strangely Chellappa sir. I don't know why, perhaps he was a retired teacher and he was said to be an expert. I went to his house and explained my mission. He snapped at me. What do you want me to do? Am I Brahma to change your stars? He looked angry for some inexplicable reason. Go and tell that headmaster one thing. I don't care whether his daughter gets married or not. I will hold on to my views. I have spoken to that man again and again, but still he is full of doubts. If he knows better astrology that I do, he should not trouble me like this. If he listens to reason, he should go ahead and fix a date for the wedding. That's all. I see no harm in it. He hasn't noticed the moon's position in his daughter's horoscope, which neutralizes the Mars. But the man expects me to give him a guarantee that Mars will not harm his daughter's life. I can give no such guarantee. I am not Brahma. He raised his voice to a shrieking pitch and repeated, I do not care whether that man's daughter is married or not. Okay, I think all of you understood it. Anyway, when the narrator understood the horoscope is the real villain in their marriage, he became gloomy. We already talked in detail about his play. He wrote the play at that period. The play is The Home of Thunder. Like that, the things are going on. One day, the headmaster called him and he asked him to meet an astrologer, Chellappa sir. Anyway, he met Chellappa. Then the Chellappa revealed him at first, am I Brahma to change the headmaster's horoscope? I already revealed the headmaster. It is possible. We can arrange this marriage because in his girl's horoscope, the moon's position, it neutralizes the Mars. So because of the moon's position, both of them can marry, no problem. Chellappa already revealed this matter with the headmaster, but the headmaster wants to get the assurance from Chellappa Mars will not harm his daughter's life. That's why he became angry. So he revealed that it is possible because of the moon's position in the headmaster's daughter's horoscope, which neutralizes the Mars in the narrator. So they can marry, no problem. But he can't give the assurance about their life. Who can give the assurance? Anyway, actually it was the green signal for the narrator. Page number 43. So we reached at the page number 43. So I think it's enough for today's class. So all of you understood how the narrator met his wife. Yes, definitely he should marry that girl, the girl he met in that near the public pipe. Okay, so we will continue the rest of the story in our next class. Thank you.